Welcome to the most important week of the year for the podcast industry. Welcome to Podcast Movement 2025.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. My name's Drew, and today we're going to talk about monetization. We're not going to talk about monetization, everyone. Okay, we're going to talk about how to write great audio fiction, okay? So really just a quick rundown of who I am, why you might want to talk to me or listen to me. I have 2 award-winning shows. HUMAN-B-GON is a sci-fi comedy, near-future sci-fi comedy about robots who take over the world and start a human extermination business. The more recent one we're doing now, we're season 2, is Sorry About the Murder. It's a Canadian comedy murder mystery. So who I didn't do this for, or some of you audio fiction masters who already probably know everything I know. So coming around this place, I've been to a few of these shows, and I'll have these nice exchanges with podcasters who are like, oh, maybe I'll try my hand at this kind of thing. So that's one of the folks I'm talking to here. So for those people, a gentle warning, audio fiction writing is writing. So what does that mean? It means a life of anguish, of terror. That's all those kind of things. No monetization, all those kind of things. That's the life of a writer, right? Now, I have only one thing as a writer. What I'll say is your solution is you have to write your way out of that. You have to write a lot of crap to get to anything good. Famous playwright once said this. It's a great quote. So the other people I was thinking about who would be here is folks who, let's say you've already written something, you're kind of going through that, and you're looking to either adapt or jump into audio fiction as a thing. So for those folks, I would say just one quick thing, that writing for audio is its own beautiful and terrifying beast. Why do I say that? For me, the main thing is exposition, right? So you can't see stuff, but we're trying to evoke the mind's eye. So we have to constantly tell and reinforce who, what, when, where, and also why. I'll get back to that. But let's talk a little bit about the different devices available to you when you're sort of creating your show. Right? Dialogue's an obvious one. Narrator's another one. A lot of people mix and match, obviously. Reality show is one we use for HUMAN-B-GON. So that's basically multiple narrators, multiple incredibly unreliable narrators, which I'll talk about a little bit more. Found tapes, obviously, is a great one for establishing all sorts of things. A ship log or a journal, Star Trek, that kind of thing. Reportage, anyone who's kind of done stuff has probably used it to some degree. And then also musicals. People in musicals are adorable because they tell all their feelings and they tell you everything in song, which is wonderful. So let me get back to the why. I'll just give you a couple of anecdotal reasons how the format you fall on can really help reinforce the premise. So with Sorry About the Murder, it's a small town mystery, and the narrator is very much a homespun narrator. And that narrator is not only telling you what's going on, but also plays every role. It's sort of almost like an audiobook. So he plays all the different townsfolk. The only other voice you hear is Frenchie, the one francophone in town. Now, for one, he's got that French-Canadian accent, which is just so much fun to listen to. But also what that does is you're always reminded that he's not of the town. The town is, if you ever lived in a small town, they act sort of in a monolith a lot of times. So that's part of what's going on there. So every time you hear Frenchie, he's outside of it and they're inside of it. So that's a way you can use your format to just reestablish a theme. HUMAN-B-GON had even more of that. So like I was saying, it's like pretty high concept. You got these robots in the future doing jobs, exterminating humans. There's a lot going on. So there's going to be a lot of exposition. So there's going to need to be some sort of narrator. When we arrived on the idea of a reality show, the great thing about that is a reality show, with the very fabric of it, it's all about emotional craziness, right? That's what it evokes. And one of the premises of the show is that when the robots become self-aware, their emotions, they just don't know what to do with them. They become as scared, as neurotic, all those crazy things that we are. So that means every second of that show, every music cue, every audio, sound, all those things reinforce the central premise of the show, which is that these robots, even though they're super intelligent, can't handle self-awareness any better than we can. So those are the kinds of things, when you figure out your mode of exposition, you can really think about how that affects your whole show. This is just a quick, oh wait, I went too far. Yeah, okay, so let's talk a little bit about sound design, what we can do. And just real simply, really simple rule I have, like, it can set the scene, and so there's all sorts of ways to do it, but a real simple way to start is, like, imagine the beginning of a scene, start with a close-up of something that makes a great sound that kind of tells you where you are. If you're in a diner, start with a close-up of a cup, a tank, of a fork, and then cut to a wide shot. Often that's a really easy sort of way to do it. And then if you tell people you're in a diner, your listener's going to assume you're in a diner until you tell them otherwise. So that's a really simple sort of way to do it. Now there's all sorts, like the hawk in a desert. You hear that hawk, and now you're in the desert, that kind of thing. If you can find a sound that is definitive to that thing. Living rooms are hard. Things set in living rooms are hard, because what's a definitive sound of a living room? Grandfather clock, that evokes a different mood, right? A TV going, now you got some voices. Now, am I listening to that? Am I listening to your characters? So thinking about what room, like a kitchen's great. Yeah, make it sonically interesting. Like a kitchen is more interesting than a living room. Washroom has toilets, has things, showers. Those things make it interesting. Train station is great because it's also dramatically interesting, people coming and going. We set something in an arcade just simply because arcades sound better than an office. So for me, the bullseye is when the sound that you have, the environment you have sonically forces the characters and then your actors to, interact with it, like a loud conversation. And not just that, oh, they gotta project. Also, the kind of conversation you're gonna have in a loud room is going to be way shorter, probably. You're not going to do your 7-minute monologue about your life story when you're yelling over something. So when you think about your environment, that can also affect what your characters are doing. Rainy days are amazing, right? Because now you're running from the car to, it's forcing you, that sound, is forcing you. You're running the car, you've got umbrellas, you've got boots, you've got all those things. So thinking about that can really help and give your actors so much more to do. Just a really quick one, in drama, they say always, throw things in front of your characters. So when you're writing for audio, maybe that obstacle is a sound. They're on a first date. Every time somebody's trying to say something important, they happen to be near the barista, and the coffee machine goes off. That's affecting them, and it'll affect your actors, which is fantastic. And then just don't forget the other senses. That's all. You have all of them available to you. Don't forget that you have those to evoke too. So a quick little thing about music. There's a diegetic in situation like I was talking about. If you can interact, if you can have your characters interact with the music as we're hearing it, as they're hearing it, that's wonderful. But most of the time I find that it's non-diegetic. So, the first one's pretty obvious, right? You can evoke a tone or a mood for the overall thing, or you can create tension or an era. You can just put me in the 80s with a sweet White Snake lick. One we found with HUMAN-B-GON, which was great, is if instead of scoring attention of the scene, you score one of the character's feelings. Now that creates a weird thing going on. So now your brain isn't quite sure what it's listening to, which can be a great, great device. And then sometimes you can even use it to describe action. There's a great scene in the show, Unseen, where there's a poker hand. Poker is being played, and there's no description. You don't need to know whether it's a queen or a king or any of that kind of stuff. What you do need to know is it's going tickety-boo, the music's doing that, and then a really bad card flops down, and then the music gets a little dissonant. So you can use it that way, too, to describe your action if you set up the parameters beforehand. For me, the litmus test of anything when I'm writing it is if I can see it, right? If it can evoke your mind's eye. So shoes is a really good one. In any medium, when writing, shoes are a great window to people's souls. But then in audio, obviously, the vibe, somebody walking into a room with stilettos or flip-flops or wet sneakers, those are three really different vibes. And then you can play with that. You can lean into that, or you can, pull away from that vibe. Misdirection, that's one thing the audio can do so well. You know that old meme, right? That, somebody rants to the government. It's a Twitter, the government, blah, blah, blah. And then somebody replies, sir, this is a Wendy's. That's what we can do in audio. We can fool people into thinking we're here, and then we find out, oh, they're at the bottom of the ocean. As far as your characters, when you're doing that thing, this is one, I don't know about you guys, but I found there's some great shows out there, but every once in a while it's like, I don't know who's talking. They sound so similar. So what I would implore you to do is those, I think, are all the axes by which everyone can be different. And so I would try to just vary your characters as much as you can by any and all of those things. If you know who your actors are, record them talking or find recordings of them and then just copy their speech patterns, whatever they do. If they slur their M's or whatever, lean into that. Lean into their strengths, their quirks. Whatever they do different, use that. And I would say as a rule for me, I'd say 4 characters per scene max. There was a talk over there about a new book, American Afterlife. And that's one of the things, when they adapted the book down, they brought it down. Okay, we have to have a 1, 2, 3 characters, and all these other characters need to be ancillary. Because you can only kind of keep track of so many things, at one time as far as in your ear. So, here's a little homework for all you kids. One is just go around, close your eyes, listen. Right? You're going to hear the 15, this place. There's 15 layers of things going on, right? So which one or two of those are the ones that would put you here? If you're going to set a scene in this room, what are the 2 sounds or 1 or 2 sounds that'll put you here? And then everyone knows you're in that room, and then you can continue on. Also, record. Listening is great. Listening to natural dialogue, but this is creepy, but hey, we're writers, right? We're bent and we're broken. Record a conversation at a cafe or whatever, and then play it back, and you will be amazed at how different the rhythm of an actual conversation is too. You'll realize how much TV and movies have trained you into a certain rhythm. That isn't real life, it's TV and movie life. A creator told me, find a show you like. Find their scripts, find their transcripts, study them, steal all their moves, steal their formatting, whatever. And this one, once you do have a script that even if it's halfway on its feet, you got to act them out loud. It's so important. I can't stress that enough. Your dialogue, you'll realize, oh, geez, that doesn't sound like humans at all. This person's talking way more. That person wouldn't let them talk that long. They jump right in before that. And yeah, you're going to find entire scenes, maybe entire characters that are just superfluous. By getting it up and out of your head, it just helps sort of lay bare so many things. And we have to be ruthless. That's as true in this as it is in any other form of writing. I'm sure you guys know shows like that where you're like, I'm just kind of losing it because the sort of the forward momentum has kind of drifted. So hopefully, with all those valuable tips and tricks, you can go from this poor sap to this happy soul. Thanks so much, and if there's any questions, I'll bet you we have time because I felt like I fucking tore through that. So thanks, guys.
Thank you. Hey, Drew. So,
Hey.
As somebody who does not write comedy ever, just wondering if you can throw out any advice from your own experiences as far as like writing comedy and kind of what plays, what doesn't, any tricks or pointers that you've kind of figured out going along.
Yeah, it's funny. I did this exercise with a bunch of writers and performers, and we were writing comedy things, comedy bits, and then one week we set ourselves a task of don't try to write funny. Just write truthful or interesting. And then like really dark stuff. And then we let the actors who are naturally really they just have funny in them. And it was the funniest week we had. So I think my advice is to be as truthful as you can. And then the comedy, I think, will come out of that. If that's how your brain is seeing it, it's going to come out funny. I don't have anything other than that. I will say, as far as casting, you want to cast people who just have that spark, who are funny, or they're totally not funny, if that's the point of it. What I would say is don't indicate. Me personally, maybe that's a Canadian thing, but I would say you don't have to do that with a joke. The less of that, I think, is probably the more valuable.
Hi there. I was wondering which of your tips that you gave here do you think would translate best into narrative nonfiction rather than fiction?
Oh, wow. I think setting the mood. I find, like, with narrative nonfiction, so much of it is about mood, and the sound design is a lot more spare. But again, that actually applies. If you want to put somebody, on a pier, a seagull, and that's pretty much all you have to do. You don't have to do much else. Maybe lapping of waves, that kind of thing. For me, I find, like, you have to, unless you're playing with it, usually you want people to kind of know where they are, and then you can trick them or move them somewhere else. But if you don't let them know where they are, they'll just be, half of their brain will be confused, and they'll be trying to track your characters, but they'll be like, okay, where are we? What's going on? Now, you can use that, but more often than not, you want, most of the time, if we know where we are, then we can concentrate on our characters' journeys.
After you've written an audio drama, what would be your process if you were indie? Would you think about approaching studios, or would you just kind of do it?
I'm up in adorable Canada where we barely have money. I would say do the thing. I would say at the very least, do a pilot. At the very, very least, do a trailer. I would say get it up on its feet. A bunch of things are going to happen there. By the doing of even just one episode, you're going to learn a ton about your script, and then you're probably going to go back and rewrite it. You're going to learn about your characters. Things you thought were important in the bios, suddenly you can't really write to them. The actors don't really grab them, or they grab a thing you were like, oh, okay, they're like pennies. I don't know, maybe that's the thing. I would say err on the side of doing something and then worry about how to sell it.
Got it. Thank you.
Not a question, but a comment. Just thank you for talking about writing for sound design, not just writing the dialogue, writing the words, and hoping your sound editor gets it right.
Yeah.
It's
right.
I think it's so important that you write sound effects and ambiences with intent, so that you're really setting the place. I think when you listen to some audio dramas, you can tell the sound design is just kind of a guess what the writer intended. So thank you.
Yeah, that absolutely, you can, right? You can smell it sometimes, like, oh, this is somebody who they're probably a screenwriter, and maybe. So I will say to that, if you're in your first few drafts, I wouldn't worry too much about that kind of stuff. A lot of this stuff, first you got to write your shitty first draft. You have to get that out of you. And then in your second, third, fourth, you can start to really hone in on what are the right sounds. Oh, maybe that should be in a train station or whatnot.
Hello, I'm Tracy. I teach at a university nearby, and I'm trying to get a class on podcasting literature. Like, that's what the course is that I would like to teach. So I have lots of questions, but do you have any tips on, I guess I'm trying to push this class to our creative writing program. They teach, screenwriting, and they just looked at me sideways when I said, I would like to teach a class on podcasting literature, and they go, what would that be exactly?
So you're talking studying existing shows?
All of it. So I would want the students to produce their own,
amazing.
like I would want them to write it and study what's out there. But I'm new to this. I would be learning along with them.
Well, if you're looking for shows to start studying, then you can. You can go in your app. If you look into fiction, they'll give you like Wolf 359. They'll give you What Happened in Skinner. They'll give you the big hits. Those are, the cream does in a lot of ways rise to the top. Like, there's some amazing stuff up there. And those first few you go through, they're going to be uniformly like really, really good. Yeah, I don't know if that helps you, but we can talk later. Yeah. And they're all proper writers. You know, this medium, as you guys know, there's no, like, it demands you to be good. So the people who are in it are proper writers. Yeah. Great. Thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate it. Cheers.